Alright guys, Mark here, just to remind you before today's episode that we are on Patreon. For as little as £3 a month, you can sign up and get fortnightly extra episodes plus bonus content from all our previous live shows. You'll get them in full, as well as behind the scenes footage from our live shows, including the one at the Pavilion in Glasgow, the one at the Glee in Glasgow, and a wee 40-minute behind the scenes Date the Fringe documentary from the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. If you'd like to come and see us live, the first dibs to upcoming live show tickets always go to our patrons. And myself and Stuart are actually going to be on tour doing stand-up later in the year and separately. Stuart has got a tour in the spring. I've got one in the summer all around the UK and Ireland. And I've also just announced a couple of extra dates for the Glasgow Comedy Festival in March. I will be at Blackfriars on the 15th, Saturday the 15th of March. There's two dates there, two shows there I should say, and the other one's on the 30th of March. So if you'd like to come and see me there, that's where you can find me. So hopefully see you at the live shows, see you over on the Patreon, and aside from that, enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Some Laugh Podcast.
It could be like, oh, that was some laugh, or there was just some laughs.
Some laughs.
Well, no promising all laugh.
No, there's going to be some.
It's some laugh. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mhairi. We always need to cover this because we had Ed Campbell on for Politics Joe, and I did start that episode by going, we are not a politics podcast. We're a men's mental health podcast, by the way. And we always will be, but you're no longer involved in politics, Mhairi. You're in our game now.
I know, so I can say what I want now.
Well, you obviously so you're going on tour with your show that you done at the Edinburgh Festival. I was going to say it must have been quite an interesting change to do, effectively do like a kind of comedy show. I was wondering would it not be hard to be worried about hecklers and that, but judging for...
Honestly, it was a world away from what I'm used to because everybody stayed. The room was full. It was just such a difference compared to Parliament. But I know I think Parliament certainly sets you up for being able to cope with folk shouting at you.
Because that's the thing, because I think you mentioned in the show maybe about how, because you don't realise the level of people, heckling when you're doing a question at PMQs or whatever. So they can on purpose, when you're watching it in the telly, they almost mute the hecklers and they just see dogs abuse.
It's basically you'll see it for the ceiling in the House of Commons. There's wires hanging down and they're mics. And there's a wee, I call him the DJ, sits up the back. So if I get up to ask a question, he'll pick the mic closest to me and it'll deliberately hone in on everything I'm saying. Yeah. So it blots out all the shouting that's happening. So it's just, it's a free-for-all when you go in there. Yeah. And then occasionally the speaker will go, hey, that's enough. You settle down. And you're he threw something. So it's a strange place.
Know, it's crazy because you just think I never done nothing gets fucking done each other at the time.
Honestly, it's as well because I talk about it in the show explaining how if you want to talk in a debate, say the debate's 6 hours long, you'll need to be there for pretty much the whole of the 6 hours. Even though okay, I'm not talking for another 4 hours, you still need to be in that room doing what's called bobbing, which is just getting up and sitting down and then getting up and sitting down again. Right. And it's just I could have done so much work. Yeah. But instead I'm in here doing aerobics.
See with that bobbing thing, so you need to stand up in case you try to get called early, or why do you need to do that?
Tradition. Right. That's literally it. It's the speaker has a list of all the names, so he knows what order people are coming in, and it depends who the speaker is and how well you get on with them as to whether they'll tell you where you're at. And let's say if I'm talking in a debate and I disappear for an hour, because I know I'm not talking for another 3, then I come back, the speaker might go, oh, I've noticed you disappeared for an hour there, so bump you're right down at the bottom now.
Of the queue.
You're like, God, it's the most insane system that they've got.
It's the worst organised gig in the world.
It's awful.
Well, because we know as comics as well, it's see if you're on a bill, right, and there's 3 acts on before you, you're not watching MD because you're just thinking about when you're getting up.
Yeah,
so there's just a room full of people making speeches that nobody else in the room is listening to.
That's it. You've summed up Parliament.
What age were you when you got elected?
I was 20.
20. So what was that like going in as a 20-year-old in your...
Oh, it was mental. Absolutely mental. Because like that, I'm surrounded by everybody's older than me.
Aye.
And somehow I became the designated like tech support for half the day. my iPad's you've not turned it on. That's fine. So yeah, it was weird, and like that you don't really get any breathing space, you're just flung right in it, and that's it, you sink or swim sort of thing. So yeah, no, it was weird.
Because you'd studied politics at Glasgow Uni, is that right?
Aye.
And you hadn't even graduated at that point when
No,
you
I,
got
st-
elected?
I still had one politics exam left after it, and then, honestly, it was a brass neck walking into that exam. I could see half the room were just kind of like, "Oh my god, you made it," and then the other half are like, "You fucker!" Like we're out trying to like post CVs and stuff, and there's you walking into a cushy little number. So
Did you
yeah,
pass the exam after it?
I did.
Imagine you
thankfully.
failed.
I mean, if it was me, I'm amazed. I would never have even wrote it. I'm like, fuck it, I didn't do this.
Aye, so I mind having to ask my chief whip for permission to go and study. So can I leave this building? He's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" I was like, "I've got a book to read."
It's like when you get those footballers that are like they're playing, like that guy that plays for Spain and he's like 15, he has to like take his fucking homework with him and all that. Like that's
You were the Lamine Yamal of politics.
How did because obviously then studying politics, right? Because that's like quite a sort of like brisk kind of change for studying the theory of politics and then the practicalities of it.
Aye.
And what was there one particular example of like you sort of realised, no, fuck, this isn't quite as as it is in the textbooks or whatever?
I think, to be honest, it was trying to wrap my head around the rules of Parliament, because certainly the course that I did, it was very much looking at like different parliaments around the world and the different things that influence politics, and it was quite sort of big ideas. There was no textbook on. So on a Monday you go in here, and then this is how this works, and that's. So it was kind of weird being like exactly what you've just described there. Going, no one or nothing gets done in here. What do you mean? I need to wait for 4 hours to right? Okay, cool. I'm not rock the boat.
Did it modernise at all in the 10 years that you worked there, or is it still like very much how it was?
Actually, I talk about this in the show. There's one thing that they modernised. In fact, no, that's a lie. There was 2 things. During COVID, they like kitted out the whole of the Parliament so that it could be hybrid. So you could have folk like sitting in their house asking a question at PMQs or whatever. And then the minute sort of restrictions get lifted, purely because Jacob Rees-Mogg can't handle technology, they just ripped it all out again. So they spent millions like bringing this Parliament into the 21st century, but then because of our Jacob, it was just like, right, fuck that, no, back to the analog.
Is that why they call it, is it the 1872 committee or whatever it's called? Is that because they're living in that fucking year?
So there was that, and the second thing was, I'll give you the shortened version, right? It's like one of the things I talk about in the show is I explain how we actually vote in Parliament, and it's mental, right? It's like there's like 2 lobbies, and you just do laps of honour in it, right? Like you physically have to go through these corridors, but they lock you in for like 8 minutes, so you're crammed in this like corridor with 300 people, some of them sex pests, some of them out their face.
A lot of them has done it.
Right, okay. And then they open these doors at 45-degree angles, and you go out one at a time, and they count you one at a time, right? So this whole thing takes about 15-20 minutes, and that's just one vote. So for like comparison, the Scottish Parliament, a vote takes like a minute, because they press a button and that's it. So it's just a monumental waste of time.
Yeah.
So with things like Brexit, for instance, we would go through like maybe 10 votes in the one night. We're talking like 5 hours where we're literally doing nothing but walking around these corridors. So eventually they said, right, you're right, this is ridiculous, let's modernise this. And what they did is, because it used to be that there would be podiums and you go up to this person in this voting lobby, and there was a big list in a black Sharpie, and you'd be like, there's my name. So they'd cross you out, and then you go through the wee doors. So they said, right, we'll scrap that. Instead of having to give your name to a person with a list, you're going to actually just tap your pass onto this little machine. I was like, right, okay, that's quicker. And they said, but we're still going to do the whole locking you in for 8 minutes and counting you one at a time and everything. And honest to Christ, it just made things worse. Like, see a bunch of boomers coming in and being like, what? Why is it not working? You're like, that's your Tesco club card, you dick. You know, it was just a waste of time. So that's the one attempt they made at modernising.
It's like when you go to a Tesco Express now, it's not just self-service, and you just see people just stunned about going, where is a staff member? You know,
Yeah.
We were struggling with the self-service today, to be fair, so 20 minutes ago.
Tesco is the worst self-service machines. I'm putting it out there.
I've said it before, but I don't like it. Like, they put a big picture up, like what you've bought or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need the people behind me knowing that I'm buying a new song. I'm sorry. I don't want them to know. I'm a
You've
teacher
got
for
that
school.
camera now as well, so you can look yourself in the eyes. Just going through. You're proud of yourself here.
The wee shop across the road from me has now got its first self-service, and it's got like a broadly Scottish voice. It sounds like John Mackay's doing it. There's like unexpected item in the bagging area, and it's just too much.
Great. See with the voting thing as well, right? Because I like, if people, they don't kind of know maybe how it all works, like, when they realise, but like, because you would think you would just be able to go and vote if something comes up, you can vote on whatever. But there's these people called chief whips in every party. And what their job is to do is to, I suppose, literally whip people into shape, or not literally do it, but that would be fun.
Back in the day,
And it's not that antiquated parliament, but they
No comment.
basically.
is that why you need an anti-assault?
You didn't have that. But basically every party, they go, right, we're telling everybody in this party to vote this way. And so how does that get enforced in Parliament by all the different parties? And did you ever see any particular examples of the people just get literally harangued and shouted at and dragged in and
it's
stuff?
kind of, it's a spectrum a little bit, because I mean, I've had my knuckles wrapped for voting against what the whip had suggested.
What are the consequences for going against that?
It's kind of, there's no really any other than your whip might actively try and make your life as difficult as possible.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Because what does removing the whip, is that when you get chucked at the party?
That means, so like, see, once you're in Parliament, everybody's in their own little political parties. But if you get the whip withdrawn, it means that you're no longer part of that little
You can't be in Scotch Corner, like what was it in Parliament? That's what's just kind of gone now, but you know, at the time it was.
But the perks of it is you don't need to pay your dues to the party. So there were times when I was like, do it, take the whip away, do it. So, never happened.
But what did they kind of do then? Did they like?
So in my experience, it was never like heavy duty or anything.
Yeah.
To be fair, that was because even at the height of us in Parliament, there was 56. It still wasn't going to make a difference really in any laws, because like the City of London's got 72 MPs.
Wow.
So you've got one city that's got more MPs than like the second largest country in the Union. But for the major parties like Labour and Tory and stuff, I did see physical altercations, folk knocking lumps at each other, dragging each other into lobbies, like folk greeting and all that.
Oh my God.
I once saw a woman totally unconscious getting wheeled through a lobby like that, just because otherwise her vote wouldn't count. And I was like, does your vote count if you're not there? Like, you're literally unconscious.
Now let me ask you this: was she unconscious because there's quite a lot of pubs?
Oh yes.
As
we went.
We went. I've actually been twice, because I went for a pint the second time I was there.
Oh, did you?
I had Guinness just to, because do what
A
champagne
very
can.
cheap Guinness, wasn't it?
It was good. But are people just steaming all the time? Because see, especially when these
Honestly,
votes going to the night,
Like, see, I remember it again during Brexit, because that period was so intense and the days were so long and they would go into like 3 a.m. and stuff. I mean, one time I just locked myself in my office and was doing whatever, and I came out and I get into the voting lobby and the smell of the bevy was like, Jesus, you don't even get that walking into the pub after the football. It's like, fucking hell. And you see people who are like absolutely miraculous, getting held up by somebody else. So it's definitely happens.
Did you ever get steaming?
Oh, aye. I remember, because I turned 21 in Parliament.
All right.
And so that night I thought, I'm going to sit and I'll get myself a pint. And it was that way where folk just kept floating in and out and would buy me a drink. And you know that way where you don't realise how steaming you are until you stand up? I had that. And I was like, oh, right, no, we don't
That wasn't in the House of Commons when you had a question.
no, not quite. But it's one of the biggest problems, I think, with Parliament is the drinking culture. It's everything almost encourages it because, and I get it, because like that, if you know, right, I'm not voting until, say, 11 o'clock at night, and you've done all your work at 7, like,
What else is there to
right,
do?
I'll go get a pint.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, everybody's been in that situation where 1 pint turns into too many, but
Yeah.
And then you make a bad decision at the end.
well, there's that
You got
too.
Brexit on your hands.
Then the whole country pays. So,
Let's just go to war, fuck it.
we'll laugh.
Can we talk about obviously even if you don't want to talk about it, it's cool, but the old maths is
yes,
shite tweet.
yes.
So what age?
Aye.
So it was like they were bringing up tweets from when you were 14 or something like that. Is that right?
I think it's 14, 15, I think.
'Cause you're probably one of the first people of our generation that grew up where you would put stuff on social media and then you get into like obviously a quite serious role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Aye.
suddenly people can go back.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
you've got stuff from like when you were 14 saying maths is shite, which by the way, I think is a vote winner. Which economic policy, maths is shite.
It's even better because both my parents were maths teachers. It's very unpopular in my house. But, I know, I remember thinking that. I'm probably one of the first, certainly in Scotland, that's kind of been burned by that. But the thing that I kind of, at the time, I was tried to give myself a break, and certainly looking back at days, it's like, so I tweeted the maths is shite. I tweeted stupid things about drink and pizza and shit like that. But you know what? Like
What do you say about pizza? You better not be a
Pizza
pineapple.
is shite.
It better not be pineapple
no,
on
no,
pizza.
no.
You'll get voted in again.
If I remember rightly, if I do remember, because it was a night out I had, and I woke up with more money than I went out with, and a half-eaten pizza ready for me. And I was like, this is delightful. But then I think, because I remember at the time, and of course everybody's going daft about it, and I was like, but when David Cameron was my age, was he like putting up Hang Mandela posters and shit?
Yeah.
Like,
Shagging a pig or whatever.
I'm all right with thinking maths is shite. You know, on a scale, I
Like
think
if that's the worst thing that you're tweeting and they're jumping on that, then you've done
but
it right.
the party headquarters said that wasn't to be my official comment. So I was like, hey, they bother. I'll let you put something up.
Getting whipped for saying maths is shite.
But
Remember
no,
when Ed Balls tweeted Ed Balls? That was a good one.
that was the best.
Aye.
wasn't
I've never done that. There's time yet, though.
it? See though, because obviously being so young and like you know, you spent your entire 20s an MP. Like, how did you just like could you have like a normal night out if you're back in Glasgow or
Oh,
whatever?
aye. Like, I've been dead lucky in that, like, I've just got a solid group of pals in, like, my family that just kind of protect me. And even on nights out, when we were stealing and stuff, it was still, like, everybody had their wits about them and
Yeah.
were looking out for me and that.
Didn't they have to bring your special advisors along with you or whatever?
Like, I mind I went out for, it was a guy who used to know Stokes' 21st, and we were in garage, and they had that projector thing up
Uh-huh.
where you could tweet asking
yeah.
for requests or
But
whatever.
like maths is shite.
And they put up the garage official account put up anybody who gets a photo with Mhairi Black gets a free drink. Right, so I was like, oh, for fuck, that's shite.
That is,
annoying.
aye.
So my best mate, he was out with me, but he was also working with, and I remind me and him in the smoking bit, holding each other's faces, going, right, sober face. We just asked for the manager. It's fine. We just asked them, going to take that down for a night out. And he was like, right, okay, we'll do it. And then immediately walked into like a door or something. I was like, sober face! Get it together, man. But we did. So I always had folk looking out for me. So I was still able to. And house parties were great. It was like, leave your phones at the door. Nobody gets out till 6 in the morning.
Locking the doors like it's a fucking vote in Parliament.
That's it. Aye.
Did you ever get to have like your pals from home and family like that come down to the pubs in Westminster?
Aye. So a couple of my close pals came down, and like my brother and that came down. I always liked it because it kind of reminded me how different I was for everybody there, because suddenly I had folk who were in my wavelength who were sitting with me going, did he just say what he did? Aye, he did say that. Aye, fucking hell. Is that Jacob Rees? Oh, aye, it is. Put your hand on it. Do you know what I mean? It just...
Were you saying that to Jacob Rees-Mogg and he was like...
You mean that Roman salute? Aye. No, so it was good.
Yeah, it must have been crazy.
Is it, you know how like behind closed doors, is there like, would you have a bit of a laugh with other, like with Tories and stuff, or would you like, they're all cunts?
Well, I mean, it was...
Sorry to put those
No,
words
it was
in your mouth.
more... Oh no, honestly, I've said it many times. I suppose it was more what I would term as kind of, the banter.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It was sort of like, ha ha, aye, very good, very good.
Yeah. So
It's
like
not
sort of
actually
wee-
funny.
Wee
It's...
jibes or whatever, or like...
Aye, or like...
You'll get a kick out of this, Mhairi.
Honestly, honest to God, folk would say things like that. And I'm like, is that meant to be funny? Right, but, what was it? Jacob, actually, one time, he passed me by and he was like, you know, you're trying very hard to dust down all the cobwebs here, and I'm trying desperately to put them back up. Like, it was just bizarre. So
fuck's
it's,
sake.
yeah.
What a weird thing to like take pride in, to go,
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to keep these cobwebs.
Aye. I'm trying to keep this as old and outdated as
Shite
possible.
Yep.
Aye.
Yep.
That's crazy. Because your maiden speech, the first speech you made in Parliament was like,
Aye.
it kind of went, well, it was a
Aye,
great
it went
speech
mental.
and it went mental, went
Aye.
viral and stuff. And is that, when did you realise, and what was it like when you realised that had kind of like blown up and people started
It
to take
was
notice?
when my brother said, by the way, you're trending top in Nigeria. I was like, fucking what? Shut up.
It's bad when they can understand the Scottish accent more than the
I know,
English.
I'm just looking like this little white boy. So it was, I know that was bizarre. And then suddenly, like, because getting elected, it was mental. 'Cause, you know, journalists coming up to my mum and dad's house and everything, and it was like really intense. And then when the maiden speech happened, it was a whole other level on top of that, where it was just mental. And it was quite weird as well, walking about Parliament where everybody knows me, but I don't know anybody there. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody was, oh, how you doing, Mhairi? And I'm like, I don't know you.
And this is not even MPs, this is just people.
Aye,
staff
just
and all
people.
that,
Aye.
and yeah.
So it went a bit mad, and I kind of, and it is even when I was out and about, you know, I was getting stopped everywhere I went. So I kind of became a bit of a recluse for a while. I was like, I'm just going to go home and watch Netflix. I'm going to order in a Chinese tonight. You know, it was
Because it must be hard, because even if you're like an entertainer or something, particularly Scotland's obviously quite a small place, and particularly if you're in Glasgow or whatever, and like, you know, just for people going out and about, whether it's, you know, Lewis Capaldi or Bridges or something, but when
Aye.
you're also a politician and you've got this kind of like, you know, you need to kind of obviously keep a certain
Public persona.
yeah,
and
public,
stuff.
Aye.
and all that sort of stuff. Must be doubly hard in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things actually that I've enjoyed shaking off a little bit is, because I should say the vast majority of people that talk to us are lovely, right? And they're not rude and they're not overbearing or anything. But you occasionally get folk who are, where they just want to take up all your time. Or say I'm sitting with my family in the pub, you know, and somebody comes up and like, Mhairi, I've got the answer to the housing crisis. I'm like, put it in an email. It's so like that would get intense. Whereas now I'm able to go, mate, I don't care.
Aye. That must be like
I'll talk to you about it another day.
That must be like the equivalent of us get people come up to us and going, here's one for you. Here's a job for you. Here's a
one
policy for you.
Honestly. In fact, the best part was the guys like that. Because eventually, I mean, it wasn't bad. So I gave him like 10, 15 minutes. I went up and I was like, right, tell us, what's your idea? And he goes, right, see all the old council houses that we sold off? Take them back. I'll take that one at the big. I'll take that one at the Hedging. See what they say. Just take them back. And I was like,
Jacob, you'll get a kick out of this.
See all those council houses you sold off? Guess what? You're selling them off. I'm trying to take them back.
You get some very weird conversations.
Like in the, would you ever be in like a taxi and it's like a space where you can't leave and they're giving their mad opinions?
See the gamble in taxis, right? Where folk will be like that, looking in the mirror, driving. And, what'd you do for work? And I'm like, are they asking to double check if it is me, or are they actually just asking? So I remember I would always just say something mundane. Like,
You had a fake job?
what was it I used to say? It was like in the public sector. That was it. I said in the public sector because I thought that's dull enough, right?
Yeah.
So I said public
Although
sector.
that's a
and
phrase
he's
that only a politician would say.
I mind this guy in the taxi, and he's like, "What would you do?" And I was like, "I just public sector and that." And he goes, "Hey, what bit of the public sector?" I was like, "Fuck, I'm digging a hole here." And I think I said something like computers. And he went, "No, you don't. That's what you're asking for."
Sometimes you get a, how do I know you?
All the time.
I'm like,
All the
well,
time.
Yeah.
fucking you tell me.
Because you don't want to actually say, they're like, no, it's not that.
I used to
it's-
work with you at the court.
Aye.
Well, now you can tell them you're a stand-up, which is the second worst thing you can tell a taxi driver.
yeah.
I just headphones in now. He
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, it's like no conversation in Uber. So obviously, like, so you kind of veteran of like 10 years of it, and now you're out the game for the time being. At least you're doing this. And what was that decision then to go? Like, was it just a bit frustrating, feeling like, is there a feeling you couldn't like get as much done and stuff like that in Parliament with the way it works and all that kind of thing?
I mean, there was the political side of it was exactly that. I'm thinking, right, I know nothing's really changing here, and I'm giving so much more energy than any reward from it. You know, even for constituents. I mean, you know, myself. So there was that element, but then the overbearing one was just my own sanity. I thought I cannot. Like, the minute I realised that I'd spent a third of my life in Westminster, like, I was just sitting there looking about at everybody there and going, I hate everybody in here. I hate everybody. And, like, that's not healthy. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose the travelling was starting to take it at me, and just it just felt like you were getting a doing all the time. So I just thought, okay, I'm done with this.
And you feel, do you think people lose a bit of touch with reality when they're kind of in that sort of that bubble of being in Westminster? Because from the outside it would look like a kind of cushy job. You like get paid well, and then you sit in Parliament and you fucking booze and you get pissed and all that. And like it would seem kind of like, oh well, that's it could be a job for life if you're and there's people like that.
See if you have a safe seat, it could be just the cushiest job ever because you don't need to do anything and you still get voted in, and it is like a private club when you're there. But I mean, I was glad that I never sort of settled into that mentality, but I did see others doing it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, you're getting too comfortable here, or you could see that folks' perception of what mattered was totally wrong. It was like it was just out of touch. It is the only way I can describe it. And folk would be stressing themselves out about, we have to get into this debate. We have to have a speech. What's the debate on? Badger culling. We have to get it. Right, okay. Right, people like can't pay their bills now. Badgers! Right? It's like, right, okay. So it's, you kind of need to give your all 100% of the time. And it's, I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I genuinely believe that you either have to lose your morals to survive in that environment, or you have to make like Westminster the centre of your life. And I just wasn't prepared to do that. I'm like, your job is as important as it can be and as influential as it can be. You work so you can live, no the other way about. And Westminster demands like you drop everything, no matter what it is, and you come here. You're having a baby, you're unconscious, don't care, get in the wheelchair, we're wheeling you through the lobby. It's not a healthy place to be.
Yeah. And I suppose you're not, again, you're not only losing sight of, looking after yourself, but also like just, the people you're meant to be representing and stuff like that, if you get caught up in all the kind of the drama and all that of it.
Because there's MPs that don't go back to their constituencies. So like every week I would be in London, say Monday to Wednesday, Thursday, and then come home Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then back down. And even just those few days, it would be startling the few times that I did come home and I was like, oh my God, this is bringing me back to reality, because I was getting sucked into the Westminster world. So it was really important for me to have that every week. Whereas there's other folk who get elected and then they don't go into their constituency until it's the next election. Do you know what I mean?
Really? Because do you not need to do surgeries and all that kind of stuff? Like, where you meet with your constituents once a month or whatever?
See, to be honest, MPs get to just make up their own rules.
Really?
Like, you should be having surgeries, but see if you don't and nobody really cares or reports it, you don't have surgeries. Do you know what I mean? It's the gamble is always, is a newspaper going to pick it up, or am I going to get pelters for this? Is it worth not doing it? So if you can get away with not doing it, then it's not like the speaker comes along and says you're not fulfilling it. Like, it's just you do whatever you think you should be doing.
Yeah,
It does.
I seen you talk about, and this is something that's I think we think about it a lot in terms of comedy, because like nowadays, like so much about promoting yourselves, like putting out clips all the time and wee bits for your stand up, but that obviously seems to be the way that like a lot of like even like PMQs or just any question Parliament functions now are people like specifically writing their questions to go viral.
It's to be clipped. Like it. So see, if you ever watch the Chamber and you watch folk in the background, you'll see that when folk sit down after a speech or a question, they get their phone out or their iPad. First thing they're on is Twitter. And I would find it pathetic when I was, because I grew up with Twitter. I'm like, why are you all caring about this website? But that's it. It's like, what are people saying? Did I do good? Did I, So it's even when you're writing speeches, and I did it myself, nobody in this room is listening. This isn't going to change anybody's mind. So I'm actually talking to the cameras. I'm not talking to you. And there's a balance to be struck with that. But I would say it's gone too far the other way, where now it's just the whole intention is I'm going to clip this and put it on social media. That's where they get the hits.
Well, I think like the reason that you done so well as well, because you were one of the only people that would stand up and making speeches that were like reflecting what a lot of people in the country felt. That it wasn't just captured by corporate interests or whatever. And particularly when it came to stuff like I think I think you maybe said this a few times, but when you're talking about the fact that like we always say we've got no money when it comes to like funding public services and all that, but then anytime there's a war, it's like they never say they've not got the money for a war or for
when Parliament needs new tellies and a hybrid system, 20 million, boom, there you go. How much is it going to cost to rip it out? Another 20, there you go, right in the bother. It's just the money's there, it's just that it's not going to the people that need it.
And do you think that that's part of like what you're talking about, people getting institutionalising the thing, so they turn a blind eye to the fact that it costs however many billion to do up Parliament and this and that, and they don't put two and two together? Or do you think they know, and it's just, is it like, do they all know that like the money is there? Like, because when it comes to a war and they know they can fund it, it's just it's a political decision rather than an economic one then?
Absolutely. But I mean, like Tories would argue that it is an economic decision, because if you just give people free money, then everybody's just going to turn into a lazy bum, and we can't have that for the economy. So it's more ideological, if you know what I mean. So there's a mixture of that, but even folk who claim to be on the left are guilty as well, because they buy into this prestige of the place. They buy into this whole idea of we're in Westminster and this is how it operates, and it always has done this way, so we can't change it. And you think you're just enjoying being a member of a club, that's a private members club. And it depresses me that that's as deep as it is. Like, there must be some real corruption, and there is, but there's also just a lot of bystanders just watching it happen. And it's become so normalised. I mean, you think of the COVID contracts, like HMRC will hound any one of us if we've got like a tenner owed to them. They will hound us for it. But if you're Michelle Moan getting however much and you disappear on your cruise, it's like, we don't know where she is. Literally go down the hall, you gave her a lordship. She's the other end of the building.
Well, that's the socialism for the rich thing, isn't it? They talk about sometimes, isn't it? It's like it's one rule for them and the other for the rest is. But so I think with all that, I suppose it's easy to get disillusioned, and I think anyone who wants to keep their principles would. And so, like for you then, so you're leaving that now. Obviously, you're taking our jobs away from us. But so would you see a future in yourself? Would you go to like Holyrood or something like that in future, or no?
No,
You're done with politics now.
It's
party
definitely
politics anyway,
party politics, elected politics, undoubtedly.
You
Man,
wouldn't set up your own party.
No, I'm not quite at that stage yet.
We were hoping that'd be an exclusive today in the pub.
The maths is shite party. It's a broad
Swept the board.
the coalition.
I know.
Unfortunately, we can't add up how many seats they won.
we don't know if we won the election. The last count.
We refuse to accept. We refuse to say whether or not we won.
No, I'm done with it.
But are you liking doing stand up, or like, would you call it stand up, or are you kind of more?
Do you know, no, because it feels a brass neck saying that. I suppose how I'm describing it to folk is like, I'm just wanting to have a laugh. Like that's what's been missing for me for the last 10 years is everything's been so serious, but to the point of even in private, it's like you're not allowed to make light of things. And I'm, how are you meant to survive? Like,
you're a person as well. Like.
I want to be able to have a laugh, and I want to be able to talk about my experiences of Parliament like a normal person without having to, to think of, am I landing the party in it with this? Am I landing colleagues in it with that? I'm enjoying just being able to be, I suppose.
Yeah. I think it's a good way of kind of telling people like how it all works and stuff like that, because obviously just going on stage and doing it like, in an entertaining way is then making people realise, oh my God, is that how it really works? And then hopefully might be the thing that would help change it and go, why can they not just have voting machines and stuff like that?
That was kind of the thought behind the show. I mean, the first thought was live therapy. I'm like, I need to get this off my chest, man. Like, people have to know. But it has. It seems to have, like, I suppose even the bits during the show that were quiet were folk only laughing, because I mind there was somebody at Gilded Balloon who was doing it was sitting up the back, and they were like, "Oh, there was a dip in the show at this bit," and I was like, "No, it wasn't," because I could see everybody sitting forward and going, "Oh my God!" So they were like engrossed in it. It wasn't meant to be funny. It's supposed to be horrifying. Like,
That's
these
what most
cunts
shows
run
to
your
go.
life. Like,
That's most Edinburgh Fringe shows.
So it was the 40-minute mark.
Yeah.
The kind of.
My dad died, and that was it.
Oh no! Yeah, that's the emotional point.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying doing it? Are you like, is that kind of what you see yourself doing for the next wee while, or are you just?
I mean,
kinda seeing...
for the next wee while, because I've kind of like I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? And I don't think I ever will. I kind of just like trying different things and new things, and like I say, I just thought I want to have a laugh now. And when the Gilded Balloon said, "Look, do you want to do a show?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it."
So did they come to you first, or did you put the feelers out?
It was sort of somebody we knew mutually set us up and was like, "I think you'd be good with them," and vice versa. So. It was an opportunity, and I thought, well, I'll try it. And then, of course, everybody seemed to enjoy it. So now it's going on tour, and who am I to turn that down? So,
how did you feel like first doing it? Because does it feel different from when you're maybe speaking in Parliament, or do you kind of, is it just you've done a lot of public speaking, so you're used to it?
I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of like that, having to pay attention to the peaks and troughs kind of thing of, you'll know yourself being in front of folk. It's like, I need to keep them with me, and you can feel when you start losing the room a wee bit. So all of those skills I used in Parliament, so I'm using them now. But like I say at the start, the difference is people want to be there. They're enjoying listening, and that I'm getting a good response, which is something I've not had.
I've got Jacob Rees-Mogg lying down in the front row.
I put that man to sleep. In fact, I'm saying that, I mind it was like the first week of the show, I looked up and there was one woman directly in front of me, like 3 rows up, just totally asleep for the whole show.
It's happened to the best.
That does happen sometimes. Did you? Because the thing about the Fringe as well, like, is like it's quite. Because did you do, like, what was it, 2 weeks or something? Maybe
I did the full.
Oh, did you full run?
I did the full.
Because that's a marathon, and like there's definitely peaks and troughs, and particularly like a Monday crowd's not going to be as up for it as a Saturday crowd. And did you have those days where you're like, oh fuck, that was like I was a quiet one today or whatever?
Do you know, actually, I didn't. It was more I noticed that I wasn't feeling up for it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there was certainly the second week of mind hitting midweek and going, how am I going to keep doing this for
Yeah.
another 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And it sounds ridiculous because you're literally just doing an hour's work a day. Do you know
Oh
what
no,
I
we've
mean?
moaned on that.
But
We've moaned on this
multiple
podcast
times. Yeah.
about that specific thing
Oh,
quite a lot.
it just knocks it out you.
Yeah,
And then
it does,
like
aye.
It's emotionally taxing.
and because I didn't stay in Edinburgh then and I was just driving through,
Aye.
like the drive to Edinburgh, you're like, it could be 50 minutes, it could be 4 days. Who knows? So, you know, I'd spend most of the day in the car, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just
My
getting
only
there early.
political position, if I ever ran for Parliament, and I've said this before, is fixing that bit of Charing Cross. We need to get that fucking sorted. I don't care about fixing the bridge. Just let it collapse. Just open those lanes.
They've opened down the back, you can get back onto the motorway now.
Aye, for the bit at Woodlands, but that you know, it's
Not good enough.
Don't try and defend their record here, right? Here's one question I thought, because obviously you were the MP for Paisley
Aye.
and the surrounding areas. I can't remember what the rest.
Paisley and Renfrewshire South.
Yeah. You're a Partick Thistle fan. Did you ever consider pretending to be a St Mirren fan?
Not even remotely. And see the number of people that tried to get a photo of me. Oh no, but just hold the St Mirren scarf. I was like, no, I'm not doing it.
That
it
says a
caused a bit of controversy within the local party.
Is that right?
Oh, aye, 'cause it was like, no, you need to be Paisley and through and through. And I was
Yeah.
like, but I don't want to be a liar. So,
That's true.
and I would just get called a scab by my own family. So.
Well, the thing, because some of these politicians like they move, because the guy you beat, was it Douglas Alexander you beat?
Aye,
Because
aye.
he's now like the guy for East Lothian.
East
and like,
Lothian,
a lot of these MPs are fucking scheme hoppers. Like they're going from one bit to the other.
I was a ball hair away for just saying I'm standing in East Lothian.
That would have been so funny.
So no, I can't.
It's the bane of
to
his
see.
existence.
Was there no party that fancied a greater time off after? Because you did 10 years in politics and
Yeah.
you're straight into the fringe. That sounds, I think I'd want to go on holiday or something, do you?
Oh, I did go on holiday in September, just vegetated for a bit. But it's also like, see, after the election, you get a 4-month wind-up period. So, because you need to, like, all your staff get made redundant, you need to get rid of, like, your lease for the office and stuff. You need to move all your stuff back to London and all that. And 4 months apparently is what it takes. My arse, right? It's like 8 months and I'm still trying to like deal with things. So it's only since the new year that I've actually felt free of it, because I'm not having to deal with like invoices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm due another holiday is what I'm saying. So-
When's the tour start? March?
Aye, March.
Going one February.
The one thinking
Tour
about it.
dates in Lanzarote or something.
See, one of the great things about like having more control over my time now is when we were pulling together the tour, they were like, right, is there any dates you can't do? So I just listed all Thistle's home games. So like the tour is literally designed around the fixtures.
In Partick
So,
Thistle
brilliant.
fixtures.
And I know I'm going to regret it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've seen Thistle this season. but-
I've seen Partick Thistle before. I'm aware of the existence of Partick Thistle, and I know it's probably not
I
that
saw,
fun.
saw Dunfermline beat them at home for
Honestly, it would make you a St Mirren fan.
Do you think you'd have won if you had?
If I'd stood again.
Because I know obviously SNP lost a lot of seats, but like Stephen Flynn and that did keep their seats,
So-
didn't they? So
I mean, I think I could have been in with a shout,
yeah,
but I say no, but everybody around me and the folk who worked in the office, they all say yes, you would have won. So I don't know whether that's me being like just kind of looking down on myself, but
yeah.
I don't know.
But you
I
wouldn't have wanted it anyway.
No,
Obviously,
Christ,
at
no.
this point.
That's because that's how it was also weird. Because the way it worked is like the parties have to find their candidates and declare them with the electoral commission and all that. So there came a point where I was having to like announce to the party, I'm not going to be the candidate again. So that's how I said or announced that I wasn't standing again like a year before the election, was because that's when the deadline was. So it was really weird announcing I'm leaving a job and then staying in it for like another year.
Yeah.
It's like the only way I could describe it is it's like going to the airport and your flight's delayed for a year. It's just torture, you know.
Yeah.
So by the time the election came, I was ready to go.
Well, you've, in terms of Parliament and stuff like that, I've seen that. Are you the MP that swore the most?
See, when folks say I achieved nothing, wait a minute. It's all because of one speech, right? When I was talking about misogyny and stuff, and I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to list just a wee taster of the stuff that I get sent since we're talking about it. So I listed it all, and of course it's stuff like smelly cunt, stupid cunt, fat bin, all this. And without fail, every time there's an Old Firm match, right, there's this one account that clips that bit and goes, "Oh, that's the Rangers team announced, smelly bin." Just and it gets me every time.
I'm sure it could be done with the Celtic team as well if you want to stay in your troll, but that's so funny. It must have been mad, because was it? I'm sure, because obviously we would have seen those kind of comments and stuff like that to even do that speech, but
they're all my brother.
Oh, really? Would you try and avoid? Because I know you talk about it in the shows where your brother kind of brings it up and all that. Some of the, but would you try and avoid, or was it tempting to just look on Twitter like you're saying other people would do? Or?
I mean, at the start it was horrible, because it's just suddenly it's that feeling of I'm in my house and I'm absolutely fine, but I feel under attack, and it's just a weird feeling, and no matter what you do to relax, it's still there, and, all it takes is you to pick up your phone. But then there came a point where I was like, right, we'll just put the phone away, just switch off it. So I did that and, found my feet and everything, so that by the time I went back and looked at some of it didn't bother me anymore. It was just stuff. And then I look at the profiles of the folk who say some of the things, and I'm like, well, Brian, you're not looking too healthy yourself, mate. So it's a bit of perspective,
Absolutely. And with the swearing thing, because obviously, again, it's hard to don't want to step in the show, the toes too much in the show, but there was one particular one when you'd kind of got caught, people lip reading you swearing.
Yeah.
And what was it you said?
I'd asked a question, and the minister got up and was giving an answer, and I said, "You talk shite, Hen." And do you know what the best bit of this is? That nobody noticed a thing until my wife went, "Oh, that's really funny," and she clipped it and put it online, and then it got picked up, and I'm like, "You bastard."
Your own wife from you to drive.
Honestly, aye. So she found it funny, but the son didn't. So it's aye. In my defence, she was talking shite. I'm not sorry for it. I mean getting into the car, because my mum picked us up at the airport that week. And like I say, she was a teacher, so there was that awkward silence, and I was like, I'm in trouble here. And we got to traffic lights, and she was like, "We're not going to say any more about it. You didn't pull it out of thin air. But remember, there's cameras on you." That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying was
Isn't it annoying though? Because when all the stuff they vote on, and they'll vote a bomb somewhere or whatever, and then it's like, oh no, but you said the word pished or whatever, and so don't do that. And it's like you're going, God, where this? It's like bloody high school stuff or whatever.
Because I mean, to be honest, there was a point where I thought I'm leaning right into this, and it was when I was talking about COVID, and the speaker dug us up because I said they were all getting pished. Because I was thinking, this is just all backwards. I'm in this place where I'm not allowed to call someone a liar, but they're allowed to lie through their teeth. And you're giving me into trouble for saying pished, which I would argue is not a swear word.
No.
But you're giving me a row for that, but not the people who gave their pals billions of pounds of public money. Right? This is just backwards. So do you know what? I'm going to say pished, because shine a light on this total inconsistency. It's just stupid.
Was it Dennis Skinner that kept calling? Was it Boris or something? He kept calling a liar, and then the liar take it back. And he's like, no, and then sent him out of the chamber.
He said half of the folk opposite are liars and crooks, and the speaker went, "You can't say that." And he went, "Okay, half the people opposite aren't liars and crooks." That's good.
That's very good. That is class. What is it like? See at PMQs, is it just a pure free for all when it's pure packed and all that?
It's genuinely uncomfortable, because the chamber's tiny, It's the telly does a disservice to it. So everybody gets packed in, and that's how you see folks sitting in the carpets and all that. So like if you get there in plenty of time and you think, right, this is my spot, eventually either side of you just keeps closing in, and before you know it, like you're sucked. It's almost like you're in the seam of a couch. Do you know what I mean? Like people just ruin you. It's horrible. And then on top of that, there's just noise and braying. Like the noises that they make are just weird. Like there's now I need to do it. I've brought it up, right? It's going to get awkward, right? Because this is a messed up noise that they make. But what they do is, like, you know how you hear them going, here, here.
Which it doesn't sound like they're saying here on the telly. I always just, they're going, "Arr!"
So it's here, but then it, like, evolves. So it then becomes, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. You're all right. Fucking hell. So it's just weird noises that they all make, and then they shout things, and, you know, somebody will... It's Doug's abuse that they shout, but like I say, the mics don't pick it up, so it's...
And do you think, see, because obviously like the opposition and the government are facing each other like that, and it's kind of lends itself to what they call it Punch and Judy politics, don't they? Do you think that it would help if they like changed the shape of the parliament?
It would. Way? I do think it would help, because there's something like psychologically about it's like us v them all the time. And then you remember the DUP are behind you and you're like, no, scrap that. It's us v them. But whereas like in the Scottish Parliament, it's that sort of horseshoe shape, so it's on the round. So I think it does make a difference, but it's not the only thing. Do you know what I mean? Because like when I watch the Scottish Parliament now compared to what it was 10 years ago, it's so bitter and horrible, and folk are just nasty to each other in it.
Yeah.
So it's not the only thing, but it's a factor. I do think it sets a tone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like any workplace, that once a tone's set, it's kind of either all uphill or downhill for there.
Totally. I remember when we'd got that tour a few years ago, we went to see the Chamber, and it was like there was a debate on, and it was like one of the ones nobody's there. I think Theresa May was the Prime Minister at the time, but Jeremy Hunt was at the, what they call it, the dispatch box, and he said something about Corbyn or whatever at the time, and then like when it got to PMQs on the Wednesday that week, May said the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh, he's like trying out material for him.
Honestly, that's basically what happens. It's like, because that's as well, like I always just insisted on writing all my own speeches, because apart from anything else, it's a brass neck to ask somebody else to write a speech for you.
Totally.
But seemingly I was the only one who thought like that, because everybody else, it's like, oh, you write a speech for me. So quite often when they get up to read it, that's why it sounds so like stilted and awful, is because they're literally going, pause for effect. It's mental. There was one time the minister actually read that bit out. Pause for a stop. Mental.
Because it's funny because you say like I say pause for effect, but they're not like applause in the Parliament. Although I do remember the one time, I think you spoke about this, was when they were voting about Syria. And it was Hilary Benn one time, and they all applauded. I just remember thinking that was such a...
that was the only time I had to like leave the chamber, because I thought, this is really getting to me. Like, it's under my skin to the point where if somebody was to say something to me, I wasn't in control, if you know what I mean.
Totally.
I was like, I need to remove myself for this.
Because everybody's like breaking the tradition to applause for basically an argument voting to bomb somewhere, but you need to apologise for saying pished or whatever.
When they were pished. Where's the lie?
That's crazy, isn't it? I know.
Yeah.
But I suppose like you say like the thing you can do as an MP is like just help out people on an individual basis, like constituents, and is that like would that be the kind of best satisfaction you would get?
Oh, totally. I mean that was I suppose a bit of the job that I enjoyed the most, was definitely like talking to normal people. And it a mixture of them
in the garage.
It was a mixture of like going and meeting different community groups and stuff. Like it was cool just rocking up someplace and being like, right, tell us about what you do and everything. Like, what's the bouncy castle for? Can I have a shot? Like, it was nice. And then equally the sort of fulfilling side of it is when you get somebody whose life's just been turned upside down by whatever, and you're able to make a real material difference to them.
Yeah.
That's where it felt worth it. But I suppose as time went on, the amount of times that we were able to do that for people was getting less and less, because it was like, I'm sorry, that's the law. These bastards have said that you have 30 days to get out the country. Do you know what I mean? So it was definitely getting tougher when you've got, you know, folk who are in full-time work coming to you for food bank vouchers and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, this is just Victorian.
Absolutely. And I've seen that you've spoke about that before as well, about like kind of how it's like the kind of idea of like fascism kind of seeping in a wee bit, and obviously we're seeing, you know, Trump's just getting in America and whatever's going to happen there. And I think now obviously you've got Badenoch at the head of the Tories, Farage's now in the Commons and all that, and you've got this kind of like, you get the kind of centrist like kind of Labour Party, and then, you know, as you're going to have a more extreme right, and they see creating that way. And how would you, like, from obviously being on the inside of it and now being on the outside, and feeling like maybe, I don't know, feel you'd be more effective on the outside, where do you think it's all going, and do you see any kind of hope for how people can actually make some real change?
Do you know, I always find this one like a really difficult question, because sometimes I think vote better. You know what I mean? Like, just start demanding better from your politicians.
Yeah.
And that goes across the board, all parties. You know, it's like, look who's becoming a candidate rather than just looking at what colour they're wearing. Do you know what I mean? Or what party they're in. So there's a touch of that. But then I think there's also an element of the further that things go, the more and more I'm thinking that something's just going to snap. And I don't know whether it's going to be like, I don't know, like mass protests or whatever, but there's got to be some kind of disruption, because otherwise these millionaires and billionaires aren't going to stop. They get away with it because ultimately we let them. But to be fair, and I say we as in normal people, are just trying to get by. So we've not got time to fight revolutions and all the rest of it. And it's, how do you, what's the answer there? And there's got to be something in the middle. I don't know exactly what it is yet.
Yeah.
But I'm alarmed by the direction of travel of the whole of the UK. And Scotland being part of that. Because I mean, I think there was in fact, it was in Western Bartonshire. Reform ended up the council by-election. Reform got a healthy chunk of votes.
They beat the Tories, I think, were they in second place or whatever. Yeah.
So it's, you know, we're not immune from it at all.
No, absolutely not. And I think, because I've always felt like the SNP gave people in Scotland like a obviously kind of a non-right wing alternative to the two big parties, whereas in England you just don't have that. So I think that's why, because, you know, their alternative was the fucking Brexit party or UKIP or whatever. So it's like we can get a bit, I think sometimes we can get a wee bit like, oh, well, we're not like them, but it's, you know, they didn't have the option, another option. And
even the SNP aren't, you know, the left wing bastions. You know, it's a neoliberal party, social democratic, and a lot of the things that they've done over the last 15 years, I think, have been brilliant and are rooted in sort of left-wing thinking.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of Tories within the SNP as well. You know, it's something I've said before. I think that's where the kind of the root of the tension is within the SNP, is that ultimately everyone who's in it only agrees on one thing, which is independence. You take that away, suddenly factions start forming, and
some of them like maths.
So it's I can't count how many are in it, but I know it's. I think everybody could be doing with some self-reflection at the minute and long-term thinking, because it's also, I think, in politics, particularly with the rise of social media, it's almost like the only thing that matters is what's going to be in front of the newspaper tomorrow. We'll worry about 5 years from now when it comes. Whereas if you're serious about changing folks' lives, you need to think the long game. You need to think beyond tomorrow's newspaper. So it's, whole thing's fucked.
In the edit, it'll just be that last bit that we use.
It's fun to say, Steve. The world is a fucked up place.
The world's a fucked up place. I've been saying this for years.
When are you going to have the balls to stand?
As a politician?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think you'd be a big vote winner. I think that demonstrates where we're
I'd
at.
be like-
Stu would be writing your speeches.
I'd just be the face of it. I'd be like a sort of Trump figure.
You'd be good at the handshakes and kissing, but he's
Yeah.
kind of, like the friendly face of it. I mean,
yeah.
We're at the
Pillar
back of the
behind
Commons
the
going, I wrote that.
he's like, stop for applause. Fuck. But I would say, because I do think, no, like, because like really people, like, they just want something that they can relate to and vote for. And I think like yourself and like, like the speeches and stuff you'd make, it's like, it's rare. It's a rare voice to hear somebody going, that's what I fucking think as well.
Yeah.
And like, I think like when you don't give people that, then you're giving people the option of basically the same, nothing, just the status quo. Or the other option is these easy answers like, it's immigrants that are blamed for all your problems, rather than the fucking, the financial industry. And all
I think
that.
that's one of the only differences that I definitely felt between Scotland and like the rest of the UK, but England predominantly, was that in Scotland, whether it's the SNP or the Greens or whatever, but that there's at least been a voice there that's pro-immigration, that's pro-diversity, that's embracing these things.
Yeah.
And that's what's been missing from mainstream politics in England, is that there's nobody going, here, do you know what, you're right, you should be getting a house, but you should be angry at the folk who aren't building houses, no the person who's, like fled a war zone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's no your enemy here.
No.
Whereas there hasn't really been that in England, certainly no mainstream.
No, well, maybe with the exception of the Corbyn years a wee bit. But
Aye, but see, even there, you're right. But I saw it as well that when Corbyn was leader, he started to bend a little bit on certain things where I was
he's not wearing
like,
the
you
tan
don't
suits
believe
anymore."
that? But I was like, he started, and I get it, you need to play the game at times,
Yeah.
but there were certain moments where I was like, you're losing the thing that everybody loves about you, which is
Right.
because you're having to play party politics. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think they could have handled the attacks on them better?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was almost like Corbyn got to the forefront and then went, right, let's play the game by the rules
Aye.
that we all know. And I'm like, no, you're at the front. Rip the rule book up. Just
Yeah.
go mental. You've got folk behind you.
Well, that's kind of like the way that a weird example, but it's kind of what Trump is doing right now. It's like you're kind of like fuck your norms and that stuff, because you kind of need to understand like to change all these stuff and to blow away
Aye.
cobwebs, to quote Jacob
Yeah.
Rees-Mogg. You need to kind of, as you say, throw away the rule book and be a wee bit more insurgent. The way that, to be honest, Keir Starmer's fucking have been with getting rid of the more left wing people. He's went in and he's just like scorched the earth. And I think if Corbyn had been a wee bit more like that, it'd been, like
I
you'd
think
certainly
so.
not have had as
I
many
think
people
so.
stabbing in the back all the time, you know.
Absolutely.
But see, in terms of Scottish independence,
Yep.
do you think what do you think? Do you think it's got a chance of happening anytime soon? Or do you think it's,
I genuinely have no doubt that Scotland will be independent. It's
Really?
just a case of how long and how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it's going to be another referendum in 5 years' time or whether it's going to be 25 years from now. Westminster goes, do you know what? We've used all your resources. Bye. And
Right.
I don't know what it's going to be, but Scotland's going to end up being independent.
they'll get rid of
Definitely.
us once they've got no use for us anymore?
Pretty much, because I mind saying that during the referendum to folk, where I'm like, if you've got the Tory party who, that they're never going to, or certainly back then, were never going to be in government in Scotland, they don't believe in subsidising a spare bedroom. What makes you think that they would subsidise a whole country? Like, if we were genuinely taking money from Westminster, we'd be the first thing that the Tories would want to cut off. So why do they want to keep us?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Great point.
100%.
I remember when we got that wee tour of Parliament and thinking about like just how steeped in it was though, like cause see in like the design on the walls, like the wallpaper, there's like the wee sort of Scotland, England and Ireland thing all together, and I thought, they need to change that. There's no way they would let us fucking go into it. They need to fucking
There's a bit, I call it the James Bond bit in Parliament, because it's like a tunnel that goes under the ground and takes you into Parliament. And they've got two big stone statues. One's the Lion of England, sorry, and one, I'm apologising, and the other one is the unicorn for Scotland with all the chains
chain
in
on
its
it.
neck and everything. And it's like, that'll be awkward to move.
Yeah, exactly. What are the chains? The fucking dragging the rest of the country along with? Is that
So no, it is. It's all Parliament is fascinating. Like it is a historical building. It's just it's past its use. You know, it's when tradition gets in the way of doing what your function is supposed to be. That's when I've got an issue with it.
Yeah.
And what's it going to take for them to like take up electronic voting in Westminster? Would you say? Because what did they say? It's a security risk. Is that their kind of thing they know?
Well, no. I mean, for years they did say that, but again, during COVID, there was a period where it was a link we get sent, and you would just go in, hit a button, and that was it. You know, I'd be doing it from my house in Glasgow, but seemingly.
The Partick Thistle game.
Hopefully, we'll win something. But I don't see it happening anytime soon. It'll only happen if it needs to happen, and there's nobody pushing for it to really change, you know. So it
kind of suits them to keep the status quo.
That's exactly it. Because I think part of why Parliament gets away with the amount it does is because they know people are ignorant of what goes on in it. You know, it's like we turn up for an election, we go, right, that's us done our bit, and then eyes just go off it. Whereas there's entire scandals happening in it every day, and nobody seems to pay attention.
I've often thought that, like, see if like the scandals that do happen in Westminster, if they had the same scrutiny that, like, you know, like football managers or like even chairmen and all that at football clubs had, because you're like see, like I remember like David Cameron appointed his brother or his dad or something to something, and I'm like, see if your football club's chairman appointed their fucking brother as the head scout, as Peter Lowell did do at Celtic, or his son, but that's a different story. But if they done that, the fans would be up in arms. But these politicians can do it, and because nobody's really paying attention for the most part, other than the political class, who are often so kind of like they're used to it because that's what everybody does. But if people actually knew the way that they know where like the football teams or whatever they follow, then you know.
And it's also as well that the world of politics becomes so incestuous almost, in that everybody knows each other.
Yeah,
loads of them shag each other. But it's like
you're never shagging in those chambers. They get like too close.
We'll hear all those names on the Patreon.
There's only 2 no's for this vote.
There were 4 yeses. But so it's, and as well, like particularly with like journalists becoming politicians, then politicians becoming journalists and stuff. It's kind of a
revolving door.
Yeah. There's definitely an element of that. So when everybody gets to know each other, I suppose there's also the human element of it's harder to rip apart somebody that you need to work with.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It gets awkward. So it's just that it's an unhealthy setup, definitely.
Yeah. Have you ever like seen when you'd have these exchanges with like Tories and that, and then would they be alright to you afterwards, even though if it's like?
Oh, it was. I mean, some of them were awful, but then there was other ones who would be very much. Oh, it's all part of the job, you know. We're all friends out here, and I'm like, don't touch me. And this is where I don't know. Maybe I'm the problem here, right? Because in Parliament there was always a kind of encouragement of being above it all, you know. And yes, we can have our disagreements, but we're all parliamentarians and all the rest of it. Whereas I kind of took the approach of going, no, he wants to starve Wayne's. Like, I'm not making small talk with him. I've got a problem with that.
It's not like a football rivalry or something.
I'm like, I sat with a woman who's crying her eyes out, who's about to lose her home, who can't feed her Wayne, and you're telling me that it's because of pronouns? Like, fuck off. I'm not trying. Why should I have to be schmoozing with you?
There's probably something to be said, like they should send people to other folks' constituencies, because who was it? Was it William Hague or the other guy?
Ian Duncan Smith.
He had the, what was it, the Easter House? What was it called? The Easter House Revelation or something? Because he went to Easter House and he's like, fuck.
And then what's worse,
that's not true.
What's worse is he's then back on the bus. And he's walking through like all these estates and stuff, and he's like, you mean I did this? Oh, sort of, right, okay. And then he went back to Parliament and he was given all the praise under the sun, because he was like, I think we should give people a little bit more money. And it was like a $5. Do you know what I mean? So it's this big revelation for him. Didn't he change him that much?
Yeah, no, evidently not. I know.
There's a telly idea. It's like wife swap, but it's constituency swap, and you go spend a week in the other one.
There's also this tradition where if you go into someone else's constituency, you have to notify them, and I just didn't care about it because I was like, who's got the time, man? Like, but folk would get really upset. Like, even my own colleagues would be like, could you tell me when you're coming to see Dumbarton play? And I'm like, sorry.
Why is that though? Why
Check
do
the,
you need to know?
check the fixture list and see when they're playing Partick Thistle.
But there's some folk that take it pure seriously, you know, and it's so it does it just it warps folks' priorities.
Do you know the one that's the most cringe thing I think you see at PMQs all the time is like, see whenever it's like there'll be something particularly when it's like Brexit or like there's a war hang or something pure big's happening, and then like halfway through this big argument somebody will stand up and go, my constituency is famous for its ice cream. I'd like to invite the Prime Minister to come and have a cone with me.
There was, it wasn't Brexit, but I think it might even have been COVID.
Yeah.
It was something really dark and heavy duty, right? And everybody was taking it seriously and all that. And I remember this guy, Alberto Costa, right? He's Scottish, but he moved to England I don't know how long ago. And he gets up and he's got that pure Glasgow uni accent. And everybody's asking really serious questions, and he gets up and he started asking a question about washing machines, Prime Minister. There is a key component, and in my constituency, this factory makes it. Could I invite the Prime Minister to come and visit? And everybody's like, fucking washing machine. Seriously, it's just a weird place, man.
Yeah, that's absolutely mad, isn't it?
But then Flynn used to be great at doing this, is like, see if you get up to ask a question and like everybody's talking or shouting and nobody's listening, just hit them with something really serious, like talk about dead children, something like really heavy duty, and watch the whole room go, yeah. Like, sorry,
That's
mate.
the opposite
Sorry,
of the Boris's dead cat, innit? It's like if he would do the swinging the dead cat thing, is like would just say something mental to distract everybody. It's the opposite, like would say some dead children, like make everyone fucking pay attention.
It's like, now I've got your attention. There's this washing machine. Do you know what I mean? Glad to be with it.
Aye, that's amazing. I don't know if we've taken up a lot of your time, by the way, but
that's over an hour anyway. So we'll obviously, as you say, you are out of it now, and but you're on tour.
I'm on tour now. Yes,
seen a lot of places in Scotland. I see you get around at the Soho Theatre in London as well.
Aye, so I get
back
asked
to the scene of the crime, mate.
I know, I
You must
get
be
asked
worried
back
that
to
some of your
London.
old colleagues are going to show up for that one, surely.
Jacob Rees-Mogg taking up like 5 seats by lying down.
As long as he pays for them, I'm happy. But I know, so I'm getting
With the
to
taxpayer paying for them.
so I'm getting to do a couple of nights in Soho, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
Because I'm having to go through it all again and be like, do they know that word in London?
Aye,
you know,
yeah.
like, right, I'll need to think that through again. But,
pished. Do they know pished?
so, but I think it'll be a laugh, you know. And even if it's no, fuck it, it's a story to tell.
No, I've seen the show and it's great. I'd highly recommend, and it's like, as I say, it's a great insight into people. Like it's a great insider insight into how the workings of politics are in Westminster and how ridiculous it all is. And I certainly right for some comedy anyway, but definitely check it out.
Yeah,
Mhairi's
100%.
on
Thank you
tour.
very much.
And I suppose, were you getting anything else to plug? Partick Thistle.
Do I have anything else to plug?
Are you still on social
No.
media?
I'm on. I don't use Twitter anymore. I'm on that Blue Sky, Instagram, and I've got Threads, but I keep forgetting it exists. It's just it's not happening, is it?
It's like when a popular pub shuts down and then everybody splinters off and nobody can quite tell which is going to be the new one. You know,
Blue Sky's picking up.
Blue Sky.
So I'm enjoying that a wee bit
Very
now.
good, nice
No,
one.
it's like it's not a cesspit yet. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
no,
getting.
yeah.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, it's Scottish Parliament. It'll take about 10 years and we'll get it.
That's it.
Well, listen, Mhairi, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
and
thank
best
you.
of luck
Thank
on the
you.
road
No,
with the tour.
cheers. Thank you very much.
Before we go, guys, as ever, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us at SummerPod on Instagram, at TikTok and Twitter. Myself and Stu have got some tours coming up ourselves in the spring and summer. Both of those tickets will all be in the description, as they will be for Mhairi's show. But aside from that, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Mhairi.
Mhairi.
No,
Thanks
no
very
bother.
much.